Why is my property taking so long to actually getting transferred? Investigations still have to be made that the rightful owner had the consent of selling the property itself. If the municipal or the conveyancer is actually taking time to get that particular information, that might actually drag on the particular procedure. So you end up buying a property, not even understanding, does this person really want to get out of this house or not? So now you did pay the transfer fees, and now there we go. Somebody doesn't want to move out. Sure. Hey there. Hello everybody, you are tuned into Normal. My name is Nell. And my name is Lebu. Today we are actually speaking about why is my property taking so long to actually getting transferred. I mean, I've bought the property, I've signed the offer to purchase, and the bank has actually given me this loan. So why is my transfer taking so long? Before we even get into the content, hope you guys have subscribed. And it's very frustrating because as a property investor, especially if you invested in yourself, you have all of this knowledge, you know that this is the right property, and now you're asking yourself, why is it taking me a year to cash flow? I mean, I've always heard Leo and Neo talking about the importance of actually cash flowing first month, but now I find myself stuck on transfer. I mean, we have actually been in this situation whereby it took us a year, a whole year for this property to actually get transferred. So now today we're actually going to be speaking about what actually made our transfer take so long. Neil, hit us up with the first point, man. I mean, number one, if you're buying a late estate, you need to understand the dynamics that comes with a late estate. So when we're speaking about a late estate, we're talking about a house that was owned by somebody who has now deceased. So in that way, what's going to happen is that a will actually come into place and dictate who will have the power to actually sell the house, if that's possible. So in essence, it's very important to actually make sure in this process that the rightful owner does sell the house. Let's just say that I have two kids and then I assign the house to one of the kids. So now if something happens to me, the South African law, the Master's Court, wants to make sure that the rightful owner will sell it. Or if it's both of them, the South African law wants to actually make sure that both of them did have a consent of selling the house. So now it becomes a problem from your side as the buyer in such a case. Because if you are a buyer and you did not know that this is a late estate, investigations still have to be made that the rightful owner had the consent of selling the property itself. I mean, you touched on a very important point when you actually said that a lot of people might actually be in trouble in terms of them actually signing an offer to purchase with someone that doesn't actually own the property. So now, what I would actually like to highlight on that particular point is that when you are buying a property straight from the seller and you're not actually using an estate agent, that's when these problems might actually come through, whereby you are actually in a deal that the person that's owning this property isn't really the rightful owner of this property. When you are actually in such a deal and you're buying a property directly from the owner, you need to make sure that you have a conveyancer with you. A conveyancer is a property lawyer. So now you have a conveyancer with you that will be able to check the due diligence. You might be paying them, however, they are actually, or they might actually save you from actually being in a deal whereby the person that's selling the property doesn't really own that property. I mean, I'm not in a rush to own somebody's property who's not the rightful owner. I'd rather actually take time, make sure that this property is mine rather than finding myself in such a mess, because that will actually cause a whole lot of conflict. And it does happen at times when you deal directly with the owner that's selling the property. So that's one thing that you should be aware of. Most definitely. So now the second point that I would actually like to point out is that with property investing or just property transferring from one person to the next, there are a lot of elements that are actually moving around, right? So now when you are actually being sold a particular property, before you actually attain that property, the conveyancers need to make sure that every bill is actually settled. So now we need to start checking that the bond is actually settled, the first thing. The second thing that we need to also make sure is that how much is the previous owner owing on that particular property as far as the rates and taxes and their water bills. So now these elements might actually take a long time because now the conveyancer needs to go to the municipal and actually ask how much is that person actually owing. If the municipal or the conveyancer is actually taking time to get that particular information, that might actually drag on the particular procedure.
I mean, the reason I'm laughing, I remember when we were in that case last year, we used to call that conveyancer
Every day.
office every day. She ended up knowing your voice. And like,
She knew me. She knew me. I ended up calling with another phone, and I called her and I was like, "What's up?" And she was like, "Sure, I know your voice already." So I was going to make sure that that property was going to be transferred as soon as possible.
and it's very important to understand the reason why we're talking about such. It's very important to understand if you do have an influence to what can be done faster, that's when you can actually make them or push them. However, if you do not have any knowledge and then you're sitting on something or thinking that things will actually happen, only to find out that it's only going to happen after a year or two. I mean, I also remember last year we literally did go to that place. We actually called an electrician to help us get our COC certificate because we saw that they're dragging their feet. It's not a cost that we should have incurred. It's a cost that the seller incurs. However, in this case, because we did see that we don't want to wait anymore, we really wanted to get into this deal. We ended up taking matters in our own hands, and it eventually did happen.
Most definitely. And I know, right, that it really is frustrating to actually be waiting for so long for a property to actually be registered.
Yeah.
So now you need to make sure the proper due diligence is actually made. So now if it means that you need to go call the attorneys and ask them that what's the hold up to actually understand what's actually going on within that whole procedure, then if that's what you need to do what you gotta do, man.
And you have every right to actually do so. If I mean, why would you want to keep quiet and keep it to yourself? It's your property. You need to know every step or where's the progress status of the property itself and what is the holdup. You have every right to know about that.
So now, Neil, what is that last element that you would actually like to tell us as far as why does the transferring period actually take long?
If the owner is not cooperating, it becomes very tough.
This is the worst.
It's the worst because now the thing is, it's very hard for you as a buyer to understand, is the seller willing to is the seller motivated to sell or not. So you end up buying a property not even understanding, does this person really want to get out of this house or not? So now you did pay the transfer fees, and now there we go, somebody doesn't want to move out.
Sure.
Somebody decides that no, I'm not selling anymore. So now you are actually caught up in a situation whereby, like, they'll tell you, like, you will actually call even the conveyance and ask them, guys, what's happening? What's the hold up? And then the conveyancer will tell you that no, the ball is out of our hands.
So now what happened in our case is that this person was prolonging the whole period because they were sending things. They were not actually sending their things on time. So now what would happen is that they would actually send in an ID copy, only to find out that they need a certified copy.
Yeah.
Then they would send a copy that was actually certified 7 months back. After that, they needed to be called back and told them that it shouldn't be later than 3 months certified, right? Then only do they actually hand these in. So now how we are actually countering that is that if the owner is not actually handing in their documents on time, then we are able to actually pull out from that particular deal. So now this puts a certain element of agency from the seller side, because now in that particular situation, the problem was that the seller was not willing to give away their houses. So they were already blacklisted. The sheriff had already told them that they're going to take this house. So they actually had nothing to lose. So they were just prolonging the process so that we could actually give up.
And that's the last situation that you want to find yourself in as a property investor, because once you've aligned all your ducks, you just want to get cash flowing from day one. So you don't want to find yourself in that situation. So this is our top 3 reasons why transfers can take long.
If you're asking yourself about the buying process of property, we'll make sure to put the link down on the description. If you have watched so far, please do put down on the comments pro.
Invest like a pro. Long up.
Signing out.